In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? There are some people who think we should be a country of chaos, of fear, of hate. But us, we choose something different. We choose freedom. Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too. The freedom not just to get by, but get ahead. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom to make decisions about your own body. We choose a future where no child lives in poverty, where we can all afford health care, where no one is above the law. We believe in the promise of America, and we're ready to fight for it. Because when we fight, we win. So join us. Go to KamalaHarris.com and let's get to work. I'ma keep running because the winner don't quit on themselves.
Welcome to the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Let It Be Known. It is Friday at last. And lots going on. How about yesterday we brought you your story about Georgia's Superintendent of Schools banning the AP African American Study course? Well, there's been a reversal. How about that? Some backlash has led to a reversal in that policy. We'll tell you about that. And we also take you over to Puerto Rico, where the governor has signed a law that will prohibit discrimination against people wearing afros, curls, locks, twists, braids, and other hairstyles in the racially diverse U.S. territory. Vice President Kamala Harris's 2019 book, her memoir, The Truths We Hold, An American Journey, has shot up to the #1 slot on Amazon's Black and African American biographers list, as well as the community and culture biography category. So her book has had a resurgence in a major way with the announcement that she is the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. And Project Freedom, a new conglomerate, was announced yesterday to help combat Project 2025. A group of African American leaders put together Project Freedom, appropriately titled when you're talking about Project 2025's opposite. So we'll talk about that. But first, it has happened. If you get any correspondence, emails, or whatever from Barack Obama, which we do, first thing this morning in the email, there was this from Barack and Michelle Obama. They say, quote, "This week we got a chance to catch up with a friend we've known for more than 20 years. She had a pretty busy couple of days, to say the least, but we couldn't be more excited for her or more thrilled to endorse Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for president of the United States. We agree with President Biden. Choosing Kamala was one of the best decisions he's made." The Obamas go on to say that she has the resume to prove it. As a prosecutor, she defended the Constitution and fought for folks who deserve a fair shake. As California's Attorney General, she worked hard to ensure everyone was treated fairly, no matter who they are or who they love. As a senator, she was one of the strongest voices holding the Trump administration accountable. And as vice president, she helped lead the charge on expanding the Affordable Care Act, combating climate change, fighting for reproductive freedom, equality, and the rule of law. The Obama said that Kamala has more than just a resume. She has the vision, they said, the character, and the strength that this critical moment demands. There's no doubt in our mind that Kamala Harris has exactly what it takes to win this election and deliver for the American people. They conclude by saying, at a time when the stakes have never been higher, she gives us all reason to hope. We know over the next few months, Kamala will continue to make her case directly to the American people, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike. They said, we're going to do everything we can to elect Kamala Harris, the next president of the United States. And so Obama, the Obamas, both Michelle and her husband, Barack, um, Power 96 said they should have held a press conference. There was a call, and I think, do we have that call, Greer, from Michelle Obama to Kamala Harris? There was a phone call made, and it was captured on video with Michelle delivering the news of her and Barack's endorsement. But they did make the call, and so the suspense is finally over. No explanation as to why. Well, there is an explanation as to why. The Obamas said well, at least people close to the Obamas said they didn't want to overshadow President Biden's endorsement. They wanted to give it some time, but they were always going to endorse the vice president. So here we are on June the 26th. They have done it. And there's the phone call, the video of the phone call of
have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I'm looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
I don't know about the fun part. When is elections and campaigns anyway ever fun? The election could be fun, but for whoever wins, right? But the campaigning is brutal. So, and speaking of the vice president, white women answered the call for Kamala Harris, a star-studded Zoom event featuring singer Pink and actress Connie Britton and so many others, shattered attendance records and raised about $2 million for the vice president. A software engineer and pilot, Alex Cole, tweeted about the unprecedented Zoom call, about which Alex says, quote, white women for Kamala, which shattered records and sent ripples across the political landscape. Zoom just broke a record of with 150,000 white women for Kamala. They were holding the fundraising call, and it's the largest Zoom call in the company's history. We recall that earlier in the week, the Black women started with 44,000 on their call, raising over $2 million, and then Black men the next night over 54,000, raising uh, I guess nearly 2 million. Don't know where it stands now. It's probably more by now. And then white women have come out. Um, One person tweeted they are literally raising $20,000 per minute. It was incredible, incredible. Um, Kamala, she says it's Kamala. Um, and one person wrote, no wonder Trump is freaking out. Future Forward, the largest Democratic leaning super PAC, also announced on Thursday that it would spend $50 million on advertising across 6 states in the next 3 weeks. 50 million in the next 3 weeks. Black Press of America, uh, are you on that? Are you on that phone call? According to a Wall Street Journal report, the effort aims to introduce Vice President Harris to voters and bolster her candidacy ahead of the nominating convention in Chicago. American Bridge 21st Century, which is the second largest independent advertiser for the Democratic presidential campaign, will resume its advertising efforts in Michigan on Friday. And that will continue their direct to camera testimonial campaign, which began in May and was temporarily paused. The report added that this information comes from a source familiar with the spending plans. Additionally, Women Vote, the ad spending division of Emily's List, the Democratic leaning organization, announced a $2 million digital campaign targeting younger women in 4 states. So a lot, a lot, $250 million. The Harris campaign has raised in less than a week. They are on a serious, serious roll. We'll have more on that in a moment. And folks, reason number 15,263,032 why you can't pay attention and certainly not trust mainstream media. Check this out. On July 9th, before the president, or just as he's making this decision to step aside, a Wall Street Journal writer named Jason L. Riley wrote a story with the headline, quote, Kamala Harris would be the best Democratic choice. And the subhead said, quote, she'd rally black voters who are souring on Democrats and she's close to Trump in the polls. Oh, all well and good, right? Well, on July 23rd, 3 days ago, that same writer for that same Wall Street Journal wrote a story with this headline, quote, Kamala Harris isn't the change Democrats need. And the subhead included the words, quote, she offers many of the same failed left wing policies. Now, how do you go in 2 weeks, a 14-day period, two stories? One, you wrote a story, and your next story directly contradicted the story you wrote in the first place. Folks, they are playing games. Mainstream media is not to be trusted. Mainstream media is a complete failure, a complete joke. It's an absolute joke. It's the same guy. It'd be one thing if somebody else wrote that for the Wall Street Journal, but the same guy, Jason L. Riley, who I think happens to be black, which suggests that the first article, yes, it is called Power 96 Media Manipulation, which suggests that the Wall Street Journal, which is owned by Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, um, allowed this guy, Jason L. Riley, on July 9th to write an article with the headline that Kamala Harris is the best choice and would be the one who excites the base, which proved to be very true. Because she certainly excited the base, right? They headlined the story Kamala Harris would be the best Democratic choice. Said she'd rally black voters who are souring on Democrats, and she's close to Trump in the poll. Your very next story is the exact opposite. She isn't the change Democrats need. She offers many of the same, quote, failed left wing policies. Suggests strongly Jason L. Riley has absolutely no integrity. Jason L. Riley is a hack. Jason L. Riley was called on the carpet by the higher ups at this Rupert Murdoch run organization and said, you're going to go back and pick better cotton, Negro. That's horrible. It is disgusting to see this in journalism. I mean, we have a bad enough time as it is. That is really horrible. And it's horrible and even if what I'm surmising is correct, they had to have said to him, listen, we need you to go back and change all of that. So, I mean, it's tantamount to a total retraction, which no journalist, first of all, we hate committing any errors, right? We don't want that phone call, oh, your story contains an error. We don't want that phone call. But the very last thing that we absolutely don't want is a retraction. And this is just like a retraction. That is horrible. It is a low point for any journalist to have to do a retraction. And if they forced him to do this, if he just I mean, maybe he got a paycheck, an extra paycheck somewhere for this, I don't know. But if they it would be it's horrible for the Wall Street Journal. Why not have another writer? Because no two people have to have the same opinion, and it was an op-ed, but no two people have to have the same opinion. They could have done a side by side. We advocate for that. I advocate for that a lot. I believe we at the Black Press of America, Black Press USA anyway, should have point counterpoint. It's okay to look at it one way. It would be okay. We don't know, and this is the problem with Jace with this Riley guy. You don't know now. You don't know what to believe with him. That is the worst thing a journalist can do is lose his credibility. This guy, Jason L. Riley, does not have any credibility now whatsoever. Michelle Madison said Jason Riley is the worst. Power 9 Power 96, and I believe Power 96 on this. He says, "I'm going to give him a call. He needs to explain." Lucy got some planning to do. It's sad state of the fact that there are many people who read the Wall Street Journal. Not as many as before, obviously. Their circulation continues to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. But that was some that's horrible, um, horrible stuff. Got a text from Make It Plain. He says, "Who announces an endorsement at 5 a.m.?" The response, Obama. um, but listen, folks, yeah, yellow journalism, you call it what you will. This guy, it's no need to ever read anything he writes ever again. Ever. There's no need to read the Wall Street Journal ever again. Again, uh, the black press for 197 years. Maybe that's why we have survived for 197 years. Um, yeah, yeah, we're gonna get to that now. And then, of course, we know Candace Owens is back in Project 2025. She says, "I'm all in." Of course she is. Of course she is. Of course she is. Donald Trump is now refusing to debate Vice President Harris, saying that he believes the scheduled debate this fall would be rigged because it's on ABC. But he wants Fox. He's asking that it be on Fox, of course, where he can rig it. Amazing. Every time he loses or knows he's going to lose, he claims there's a rigging going on. Every time. The guy, sometimes you lose. It's okay. It's okay. Is ABC going to give one candidate an unfair advantage over the other? I doubt that. And what is there to complain about? CNN uh, did the worst hosted, moderated, was the worst moderated debate in history. Biden's performance was awful. We all know. We talked about it. Trump's performance was just as bad, but we really didn't talk about that. But what really needed to be talked about was that it was the worst moderated debate in U.S. history, hands down. It was just a complete and utter disaster of a debate. There were no winners. Everybody lost in that debate. Trump lost, Biden lost, and certainly CNN with its flailing, uh, ratings, continues to come in last, did such a awful job. And now this guy knowing, and I think Trump, because Trump, there are some things, give the man a little credit. He's a businessman, he's a smart man, and at on some things, right? He knows that how bad CNN performed. He knows that. He was there front and center, obviously. So he's figuring, I guess, this is my guess. He's figuring that ABC is not going to allow it to happen to them. That they are going to fact check. They're going any of the two, if Kamala Harris or Donald Trump gives misinformation or lies, that ABC is probably, the hierarchy is probably telling the moderators, call it out. We're not CNN. And so Trump wants to make it seem like he really wants to debate her. But let's go to my network, the network that's in my back pocket. And remember the last time Fox held a debate, right? It cost them what, $787 million defamation lawsuit that they lost because they perpetrated the misinformation and the lies about the election. David says there's no chance that individual one will ever debate Kamala. And Power 96 says, nope. His sentencing date is around the debate. The Harris campaign is calling Trump a convicted felon. So some folks say, as make it plain is one of them who says like at 5 a.m. this is so bad, this 5 a.m. endorsement. But then other folks say they call it great and transformative and visionary, full-throated endorsement. So people are going to have difference of opinions on the timing of Obama's endorsement. Dozens of Trump supporters, Greer says, were irate that they had their cars. Yes. See, this is why Greer, she needs to be the one on camera a lot of times. She should turn her camera on right now. Come on. Dozens of Trump supporters, she says, were irate that they had their cars towed for parking illegally at the last Trump rally in North Carolina, and they had to pay $380 to get their cars back late in the evening. Many of them were parked at a Dunkin' Donuts, where clear signs marked, if you're not patronizing, you will be towed. It's like, send the bill to the Trump campaign. Mike V says, I would like to see Vice President Harris have a town hall with the black press in September. It's funny you say September, because September, there's the huge Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference where everyone goes to, and that same week is the NMPA's leadership awards reception, which thousands attend. And so that would be ideal timing. That's why I say funny you say September, because that would be ideal timing. And Mike, it would encourage you and others to call uh, the NMPA headquarters and encourage Dr. Chavis to try and put that together with everything else on his schedule. I would really encourage that. That would be a win-win for everybody. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. And by the way, so I was watching a clip from um, Godfather in Harlem. And it's set in the 1960s. And Malcolm X, who, by the way, was played by Nigel, what's his last name, Greer? But I was telling Shanae, I was like, this guy is one of the best actors out there, and really enjoyed him. Didn't I understand they replaced him later in the show. They had a scheduling conflict or whatever. But Nigel, what's your last name, Nigel? You folks, if you don't, I mean, you would know him if you saw him. But this guy, um, Nigel Thatch, um, this guy is an incredible actor. Um, I enjoy everything that he plays in. He's like he's on par, in my opinion, with like Denzel Washington and Don Cheadle, um, but he's unsung. Like Lorenz Tate, another guy who I just think is just one of the most brilliant guys to ever grace the screen. Um, but nonetheless, this is set in the 1960s, and uh, what's his name? Adam Clayton Powell as played by this man. I can't think of his name too. And there's Nigel. Nigel on the left, as you could see, portraying Malcolm X. Um, this guy is an incredible actor. But set in the 1960s, and there's a scene. They're in the office of Adam Clayton Powell. Um, Giancarlo's, yeah, is this guy's name. But and of course Forrest Whitaker's superb, superior actor as well. But there's a scene there that the clip I was watching, all of a sudden I had to play it again. They are talking about the NMPA and how they were able to get the NMPA, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, us, to take out or to provide free ads in our newspapers about the civil rights bill. And I mean, it was like, phew, this is what the black press has stood um, for 197 years. And of course, the NMPA, which is the trade association that represents the black press of America, has been around almost 90 years. But some brilliant actors. The young lady who plays Betty Shabazz, the young lady who plays Bumpy Johnson's daughter, both young ladies who play Johnson's daughters, or really his daughter and granddaughter, and the wife. I mean, very, very accomplished. I love to see good acting. It's so much with Netflix and all. They're throwing movies and stuff together, and the acting is just B, C, D rated. The wife is from Harlem. The individual who portrays the wife of Bumpy Johnson is from Harlem. But I know I went all off into a whole different discussion with that picture there, but they mentioned the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and again, it shows you too. Again, I mentioned that too because in the particularly during the civil rights movement, um, during Jim Crow, during the civil rights movement, how vital the black press was, and it, it highlights that. And I understand that there are other references to the NMPA throughout that series. So it was good to see. Good to see. FBI Director Christopher Wray has cast further doubts on Donald Trump's claim that he'd been shot during the alleged assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania earlier this month. Wray raised the possibility again that Trump and the GOP have overstated his so called brush with death and said it's very possible that a piece of broken glass hit Trump's ear. They cannot account, they cannot say, in fact, they can probably say, as they accounted for all the bullets. Apparently, there were 7 or 8 bullets, all accounted for, and according to the FBI, not one of them hit Donald Trump. Uh, Christopher Wray did concede that it could have gone past him. Thus, the shattered glass at the podium there. Power 96. I told y'all Trump was doing a Tubi movie scene. And he says, "Where's the crying Van Jones? He went all in for the crypto scammer Amber Rose. He has gone silent since VP Harris announced her run." I don't want to waste any more air. We got a certain amount of air to breathe, right? We don't know exactly how much. Everybody's different, right? Everybody's got a set time, I guess, on the amount of air. Everybody has their own amount. I just don't want to use any of my remaining on that guy. So it's just horrible. It's true. Oh my gosh. Georgia Superintendent of Schools has reversed course following backlash over the state's refusal to provide funding for a new advanced placement class in African American studies. In a statement, Richard Wood said that the state will indeed provide funding to districts that use a course code that has been in the catalog of state funded courses since 2020. He says districts using the course code will receive state funding. Should districts choose to do so, they may teach some or all of the standards in the AP African American Studies course using this code, and students may take the associated AP exam. We know the controversy. Woods had claimed at first that it didn't qualify. And of course, they objected to teaching Black history. And so now, because of an outcry, the folks in Georgia did what the folks in Florida and other places apparently failed to do, or didn't do a good job of, but they really stood up in Georgia. Hey, we want this course. We need this course, and we're going to have this course, which left Mr. Wood with no recourse. So there you have it. Good job there down in Georgia. They were not trying to hear it. Hey, sometimes you got to stand up and stand up strong. And this is what they did. Mike V says, but they wanted to keep the AP European Studies course, though. Can't make this up. Yeah, and they're going to keep their AP European Studies. Oh, my gosh. So in Puerto Rico, the governor signed a law this week that will prohibit discrimination against people wearing afros, curls, locks, twists, braids, and other hairstyles in what has really become a very racially diverse Puerto Rico. The move was celebrated by those who had long demanded explicit protection related to work, housing, education, and public services. Um, they're calling it a victory for generations to come. We remember the Crown Act here in states here. We know what happened in Houston, in Texas, with the young student being suspended. But Puerto Rico is now taking a stand. They have a population of 3.2 million. And of that 3.2 million, half of them identify as being of two or more races, with 230,000 identifying solely as Black. And so the law that was signed this week's, it says this, quote, unfortunately, people identified as Black or Afro-descendant in Puerto Rico still face derogatory treatment, deprivation of opportunities, marginalization, exclusion, and all kinds of discrimination. The governor said that this is needed. They also mentioned the Crown Act, which is acronym. The Crown is acronym for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. There was a March report from the Economic Policy Institute that found that not all states have amended their education codes to protect public and private high school students, and that some states have allowed certain exceptions to the Crown Act. The federal version was passed by the House of Representatives, U.S. House of Representatives, in 2022, but it failed in the Senate. This past May, Democratic lawmakers did reintroduce the Crown Act. Yeah. So Mike V says, I remember when the former president was tossing towels at folks who were impacted by the hurricane a few years ago. Yeah, there's a lot of things we were. And Power 96 says, every time I read about Puerto Rico, I think about Trump throwing paper towels at the. Yeah, that's what Mike was saying after the hurricane. Well, so now it's against the law in Puerto Rico to discriminate based on hairstyles. Well, in 2019, Vice President Kamala Harris, then Senator Kamala Harris, wrote her memoirs called "The Truths We Hold: An American Journey." Well, since her announcement last week, since Biden's announcement and her ascension as the Democratic nominee, the book is again shot up to the #1 slot on Amazon's few of Amazon's charts, including Black and African American biographers, as well as the community and cultural biography categories. Not the first time that her book has gained traction. It surged in popularity after the 2020 election, of course, when she and Biden were victors over Trump and Pence. The book kicks off on the night that Vice President Harris was elected a U.S. Senator in 2016, and it chronicles her journey from prosecutor to California Attorney General and beyond. She addresses in the book many hot button issues, I should say, including the economy, immigration, national security, the opioid crisis, inequality. And she also gives further insight into what she calls a holistic, data driven approach to wide reaching issues such as big banks and tough on crime agendas. It also really helps to highlight the exaggeration that has dogged her, the untruths that has dogged her about who she prosecuted and how many she prosecuted. Turns out just a handful of people for that they thought she was that they the misinformation said she had targeted specifically Black men in prosecution. Turns out, look at the record. And that's the thing, folks. I mean, as we talked earlier about the Wall Street Journal, you want to know facts, well, go do a little research. Go do a little research. It will help. It will help. There was a press conference yesterday. A group called Project Freedom, well-known Black Democratic leaders, they unveiled Project Freedom, which is a fresh strategy, they said, to combat Project 2025. You know what that is? That contentious 922-page plan to reform the federal government, put forth by supporters of Donald Trump. And Democrats continue to warn that that's what's in store if uh, Vice President Harris does not prevail in this election. It's going to give, which the Supreme Court is firmly behind, given the president unprecedented power. It's going to eliminate the Department of Education and federal housing assistance and significantly cut or even end food stamp programs, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and other social welfare programs. So this Project Freedom, in the press conference, they said that this look, this is designed to thoroughly inform voters of color, particularly in 4 key battleground areas. The group says it aims to mobilize voters of color through town halls, Mike V, town halls, community events, digital campaigns, and phone banks in Michigan, North Carolina, Las Vegas, and the Pennsylvania tri-state area. They want to provide what they call a substantial policy agenda for Democrats ahead of the November election. They say that Project Freedom is based on 4 pillars: freedom to live, freedom to learn, freedom to vote, and freedom to thrive. So we will, Tamika Mallory is also a part of this and several others. So we'll see what shakes out here as they try to combat Project 2025. Somebody had asked in a previous Let It Be Known episode about, well, what are people doing to combat Project 2025? Well, here was that big announcement yesterday by Project Freedom. Yeah. Okay. At some point, you can read more about this at blackpressusa.com. And of course, other NMPA member newspapers like the Washington Informer, the Afro, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just pick up a local Black-owned newspaper in your area. But Project Freedom, they say, is the antidote to Project 2025. Um, so, so much is going on. There have been more statements about Sonia Massey, uh, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and others have made forceful statements about Hakeem Jeffries. And there was a video, and I'm not sure, Greer, do we have the video of what appears to be a police officer? She um, was expressing some real outrage over what that officer did. It was a white police officer, white woman police officer, who did a TikTok video in her vehicle, and she was tremendously outraged that she was embarrassed. And she said part of the problem is other law enforcement officers should also be embarrassed and express that they should be stepping in. Um, she said there's no way that this Black woman should have been shot and killed for holding a pot. Um, and the video shows too that at that point that she was shot, she wasn't holding the pot. Um, so hmm, really interesting stuff to see officers. This whole case has been interesting because, as we stated before, the union has not stepped in to help this officer. He was immediately fired, immediately arrested, jailed without bail, charged with murder. These are things that are extremely, extremely rare. But importantly, these are things that will not happen under Project 2025. And here's the officer in question that I was talking about. Let's see if we can roll that.
To talk about Sonia Massey. I've been in law enforcement 7 years, and I have seen a lot of fucking bullshit. And I'm telling you right now, that video of that officer unaliving that poor woman is fucking disgusting. As a cop, I am completely disgusted with not only my duty and my profession right now, but all my other law enforcement officers who are refusing to speak out against this. I mean, this goes beyond a law enforcement. This goes to a humanity factor. This officer went into the situation wanting to kill someone. Why are there not more officers speaking out against this? That is not what I signed up to do this job for. And any cop that does not speak out against this is just as guilty. In fact, we should be the first ones speaking out against our own people that are doing this stuff. This is murder. Yeah, it's murder. When I signed up to be a law enforcement officer, it was to protect and serve my community. It was to get to know my community. It was to help my community, to better my community, to make sure my people were safe. That's why I signed up. So you're telling me right now that a pot of boiling water is a threat to you? That's I cannot fathom. Because again, this wasn't about a woman with a pot, was it? This was a race related issue. I'm absolutely disgusted. Disgusted.
Um, and see, Power 96 is saying something. He says she will be fired. The then blue line will disown her. Um, and it's funny because it's ironic because that's what a lot of the messages under her post was saying, in addition to her being extremely heavily made up as a cop. Uh, but nonetheless, we don't want to digress. But yeah, that's a major problem. In most jobs, you mess up, you get called out for it. You're even in some cases, your coworkers call you out. They don't want to be associated with such egregious behavior. And so you ask the question, well, why is it that way in law enforcement? And so you get a Power 96 writing that she'll be fired about and talking about the thin blue line. And Michelle Madison points out that the former officer now, who is waiting in jail for his trial to come up at some point, that he held 7 different positions in 4 years. Power 96 brings out that he was kicked out of the Army. He had 2 DUIs and worked for 6 police or sheriff's department in 4 years. Exactly. So, um, yeah, Mike V, where are the black blue folks at now? It's the same, like you ask, where are the black blue folks? And I've heard you guys ask the question about black conservatives. And it's funny how, you know, you stay silent. These people stay silent on the most egregious of things. And that is what needs to stop, right? That needs to stop. But here we are again, another um, death that her life never should have been in danger in the first place. Sonia Massey called the police because there was an intruder. She reported an intruder. And what's still not yet being explained, and I'm sure it'll come out in trial, perhaps before trial, but certainly at trial. Why were they asking her for paperwork? Why were they asking her for her ID? I just have a feeling that's more on that. Remember that one of the officers had his body camera off. So there was a whole lot more than what we saw. Because how did it get to they needing to see paperwork or ID from her, a victim or a potential victim of someone breaking into her home? Really, and she's in a nightgown, so uh, come on, folks. It is the weekend, so hopefully everybody will enjoy it. And before you do so, I have a request. Go to our YouTube page. Y'all heard me say this request a lot. And subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. LIBK news. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell your cousins. Tell that person you last argued with that the one thing y'all can agree on is subscribe to let it be known news on YouTube and watch it on that channel. Be very helpful. I know some like Facebook, but you get a better picture on YouTube. Trust me, you do. Some like other avenues, whatever, but YouTube, go to Let It Be Known News YouTube page to watch it and subscribe. And we appreciate you. And we will bring you more news and information that you can use and talk about and perhaps even laugh about next week. Have a great, great weekend. We'll see you then.